I have made the case and will make the case until my dying day that freedom is necessary for us to maximize virtue, and virtue is necessary for us to maintain freedom, and that these two things are never an either or, but a both and that in that tension that we hold loosely, it is a blessed tension that requires wisdom and deliberation and discussion. And frankly, the types of things I like to talk about here in Capital Record, whether it's about housing or government indebtedness or trade policy or whatnot, that's kind of the whole purpose of this thing. Howard Stern is a has been in a lot of ways. He's not super relevant anymore, although that doesn't mean he doesn't have a gazillion people that might still listen to him. But in a very weird way, Howard Stern represents, in the two stages of his career, an opportunity for us to look at the free and the virtuous part, or lack thereof in both cases, of both elements. I would argue that the FM terrestrial radio Howard Stern, that wherein Howard Stern became famous, he became reasonably wealthy too, but nowhere near the wealthy he would become. We'll talk about that in a second. You have this sort of application of someone whose freedom was being threatened by FCC rules. The Federal Communications Commission was coming down on him, and he represented quite a grotesque violation of many people's standards of decency. So the early Howard Stern went up against the boundaries of freedom in our society from a regulatory standpoint, just based on the kind of content he wanted to do, the sexual innuendo, the provocative material. A lot of the stuff that is now most controversial was not actually what he got in trouble for. You know, he had a lot of racially charged stuff and politically incorrect humor, but it was really a lot of the just licentious stuff that made Stern kind of famous. And I think a lot of people in the late 80s, early 90s, into the mid 90s, they're driving around, and they were this before, you know, CD stuff in cars, and obviously before satellite radio. And Stern was just one of the biggest ever. One of he found an audience, and it violated a lot of people's sense of decency, but he certainly had the freedom to make a lot of the material. And then what happened is he, via satellite radio, which had very different regulatory apparatus than terrestrial radio, decided I now can get paid even more than ever. He's lately been in $100 million per year contract, and will not be bound by the decency requirements of terrestrial radio. So he could use profanity more, but also go into a lot, you know, not have to worry about some of the sexualized material that was part of his bit. Ironically, what happened is then the second Howard Stern that kind of kicked in over the last 5 years, all of a sudden got rid of a lot of the more controversial aspects of him. He became very, very woke. Sometimes stuff I've heard, I don't listen to him, but sometimes the stuff I've heard lately sounds like someone making fun of an extremely liberal, politically correct, progressive, not someone who is shocking and pushing the envelope and going where other comedians or other entertainers or whatnot wouldn't want to go, which was the Howard Stern, of course, that people knew, you know, decades earlier. So he sort of had his own transition from basically being gross, but sometimes for a lot of people funny, and but certainly always daring, to being boring, not funny, and not remarkably bold.